I stumbled across the post while scrolling through Reddit. It was an anonymous account on the r/relationships subreddit, where people share stories about relationships falling apart, with a title that read, "My girlfriend is 6 years older than me. She wants to get married, but after 5 years, I don't want to continue anymore. How do I break up without making a scene?" I kept rereading it. My heart pounded, like something was squeezing my chest. The comments below were filled with criticism, calling him a coward, a user. And he replied to every single one of them. "She's already 35, past her prime. No one wants to marry a woman who only buries herself in work and forgets how to enjoy life." As I was reading that, he was still here, with me, planning our upcoming wedding. My fingers scrolled down, trembling. The account used a Fortnite avatar, the favorite character of Jake Harlan. The location? A luxury condo in Manhattan, the very building we were about to move into after the wedding. I checked it 3 times. No mistake. In the living room, Jake was still sitting on the couch, leaning slightly forward, the screen's glow casting onto his face. His fingers tapped on his phone, fast, steady, cold, like he was answering a work email, not discussing how to leave the woman he no longer wanted without drama. The click-clack of the phone keyboard echoed in the quiet apartment, each tap like a small cut across my skin. Right after I refreshed the page, the post disappeared. So did the location, but the sound of his fingers typing still echoed, sharp, dry, and so real that I finally understood. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come with words. Sometimes it just takes an anonymous post and the person sitting right in front of you. The furniture installer, a tall guy in a blue company shirt, gently tapped my shoulder, his voice low, like he didn't want to break the air. "Ma'am, where would you like to place the porch swing? Inside the room or out on the balcony?" It seemed like a simple question, but I couldn't decide on my own. "Jake," I called out, trying to keep my tone neutral, "do you want the swing on the balcony or in the room?" He didn't respond. He didn't even look up. His fingers kept scrolling, the light from his phone casting a pale glow across his tense face. Maybe the comments had driven him mad. Jake gripped the phone so tightly his knuckles turned white, his lips pressed into a hard line. I waited a few seconds, then repeated the question, softer this time. "Jake, porch swing." A loud metallic clatter broke the silence. He had slammed his phone onto the table. He shouted, eyes blazing, "Can you just shut up? This piece of junk. Put it wherever the hell you want." I stood frozen. For a second, every sound in the room, the drill, the wind from the balcony, the faint background music, just vanished. All I could hear was my heartbeat, slow and heavy. The porch swing was being unwrapped from its plastic covering. Pale wood frame, steel hanging chains, the one we had spent weeks picking out. He used to say he wanted it by the window, where we could catch the morning sun and see the Manhattan lights at night. He used to say someday he'd hold me and our child on that swing, counting clouds, waiting for the sun to rise and set. Now, to him, it was just junk. I looked down at my hands. White paint stuck to my fingertips like I'd touched something already dead. Growing up, I never had a room that truly belonged to me. I learned to smile just enough, cry quietly. Everything in my life had to be permitted by someone else. And Jake knew that. He once held me and whispered into my hair, "Emma, our child will have a big room of their own, okay? If it's a girl, I want to raise a little Emma, but a happier one." I believed that. Believed it so much that when he proposed in this very condo, I cried because I thought I finally had a place to breathe, to live, to belong. And now, with that same man, in that same room, with that same swing, only his voice had changed. Instead of dreaming about family, he was there, in our future home, arguing with hundreds of strangers online. I could hear him typing, each keystroke clear. 5 years of dating, so what? There's no law against breaking up after 5 years. Women over 35 are definitely past their prime on Tinder. Just listening to her talk gives me a headache. Total corporate burnout vibe. Makes me want to puke. Even if I get bored and come back, she'll still love me anyway. Every word felt like a blade to the chest. The installer nudged again, his voice unsure. Ma'am, where should I put it? I turned back, stared at the wooden frame one more time, and said quietly, Can you help me return it? He looked surprised, but nodded. Jake finally looked up. His eyes flickered with a hint of confusion, like he didn't understand what was happening. I wanted to say something, but my throat closed up. He waved his hand, cutting me off, his voice raspy and tired. You're always like this. Asking again and again, changing the wedding plans 10 times. This whole wedding thing is exhausting, just nonsense. He shot up, grabbed the suit jacket off the chair, and stormed toward the door. As he passed the little wooden rocking horse we had made together, he kicked it. It tumbled over, one leg snapping off, the crack of wood hitting me like a slap. The door slammed shut behind him, leaving the sharp smell of fresh wood and glue burning my eyes. I stood in a room filled with wedding prep, feeling like I'd just been cut out of my own life. He said he was exhausted because he didn't want to marry me anymore. And me? I just wanted to say one thing, very softly. If you want to leave, you could have just said it. No need to toss my love onto the internet for the world to stomp on. To ease my worries, Jake had insisted on co-signing the $700,000 mortgage when we bought this condo. The deed was in my name alone. The rest I scraped from savings, and a small installment loan. The moment the door slammed shut behind him today, I called the realtor, sent in the photos, filled out the description, and marked the listing as active. While I was entering the details, my phone buzzed. An Instagram story from a coworker, a snapshot of the office, a familiar silhouette barely visible at the corner of the desk. Jake Harlan was hunched over, one hand clutching his stomach, brows furrowed. That's how he looked the first time we met too. I passed by and left a painkiller on the desk. Jake looked up, eyes glowing. Over something that small, he insisted on getting my Instagram to send a thank you transfer. And from then on, he stuck to me. That young man, bursting with energy, the type who, once in love, poured his whole heart into it, calling me honey, my dearest Emma, always planning little surprises, or pulling late nights with me at the office. From then, the still water of my life began to ripple. But I hesitated. I wanted love that led to marriage. I was 6 years older than him. Not 2, not 3, 6. When we started dating, he was 23, a fresh-faced intern. I was 29. Now he's 29 and I'm 35. That gap wasn't about numbers. It was about how others looked at us. Whispered lunches in the pantry, the slight smirk from someone when we walked through the revolving doors together. Jake said he didn't care. He swore he'd always stay by my side. What really made me stay was the COVID lockdown. I was stuck in San Francisco. The city shrank. The streets emptied. Headlines ran red. He drove all night through a storm into a locked-down city just to find me. Both of us burning with fever, the fridge empty, only a few pills left. I drifted in and out. Every time I opened my eyes, he was there beside me. I cried, the kind of crying that doesn't stop just because you tell it to. Just like now, no matter how much I wipe, it won't go away. I held the condo sale authorization in my hand, hesitated for a second, then grabbed a box of painkillers from the drawer and drove straight to his office. Through the frosted glass, I saw Jake sitting upright, screen light casting a cold halo on his cheekbone. His voice was calm, low. It's actually simple. Just break down these financial reports along this axis. Beside him was a young woman, ponytail high, pen gliding quickly across her notebook. She let out a soft, "Oh," leaned in close. Their noses nearly touched. Her eyes sparkled with admiration, her lips slightly curled. Jake froze but didn't pull away. The tension between them was thick enough to choke on. If he hadn't caught a glimpse of me through the crack in the door, the next second might have been a kiss. I knew that girl. Sophia Bennett. Half a year ago, it was Jake himself who complained to me about her. The new intern. Got connections with upper management, he said. Aside from a shiny resume, she's useless. Ever since she became his assistant, I'd hear Jake grumble nonstop. On top of doing his own work, he had to clean up the mess she left behind. He used to say he'd request a department transfer, or fire her if she messed up again. But he never did anything, just said, out of respect for her father. One night, he buried his face into my neck, his voice tired but sweet. Emma, you're still number one, smartest and most beautiful, I believed him. Believed it so much, I didn't notice how, from that moment on, every time he mentioned the name Sophia Bennett, even if it was to complain, there was always a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. The kind of smile I once thought was only meant for me. Now I get it. I stood up straight, my voice so calm it surprised even me. You two go right ahead. Sophia flinched, face pale, eyes wide like she couldn't believe she'd just been caught. She looked over at Jake, lips trembling slightly, silently begging for help. Jake frowned, his voice low. Emma, don't make this hard for her. I let out a soft laugh. Make it hard? I was just standing in the doorway, not yelling, not throwing things, not even arguing. But in his eyes, I was the one making things difficult. He knew the line, crossed it anyway, and now he's playing the reasonable one. In that anonymous post, he wrote, "She's 35 already. Who'd still want to marry a woman like that?" Maybe he really believed it. Believed that if he let go, I'd have no one left to hold on to. Jake glanced at the box of painkillers I'd placed on the table, his tone sharp and mocking. Giving out pills like this suits little girls more. If you've got so much free time, why don't you go survey more projects and boost next quarter's performance? His voice sounded like he was in a meeting, not talking to the woman who was supposed to be his wife. Sophia lowered her head slightly, pretending to look embarrassed, fingers playing with the plastic wrapper, lips tightened to hide a smirk. I caught her gaze. It was smug, dismissive, a little victorious. I didn't say anything. I just picked up the pillbox, twisted my wrist, and tossed it straight into the trash can. The sound of plastic hitting metal echoed, dry, clean, like a period at the end of a sentence. I turned away. Got 2 steps before the sound of glass shattering, and Sophia's shrill scream rang out behind me. Somewhere along the way, whatever I did now, even silence, irritated him. When love is gone, people don't need a reason to resent you. Just breathing is enough to annoy them. I didn't argue, didn't explain. I just opened the door and let the white hallway light pour in, splitting the cold room in half. Behind me, Jake's voice was still echoing, mixed with someone cleaning up broken glass. I didn't look back. I only knew one thing. When respect is gone, love becomes nothing more than a cruel habit. And I no longer want to be anyone's habit. The condo was in downtown Manhattan, prime location. It hadn't been listed long when the realtor called to say someone wanted to see it. They walked slowly across the oak floor, ran their hands along the brushed steel railings, looked up at the pendant lights I'd carefully chosen, one by one. Are you sure you want to sell? This place. You can tell the owner really poured their heart into it. I just smiled silently, turned to the last page, and signed. The pen left a dark, steady stroke, like a cord being cut. After handing over the keys, I walked out of the condo complex. On the stone-paved courtyard, a small cat leapt from the bushes, tail curling into a question mark, before rubbing against my shoe. Muffin. Her fur slightly matted, her round golden eyes like 2 coins. I bent down and held out the back of my hand for her to sniff. No food in my pockets. I forgot. Jake never forgot. Back when we first started dating, we'd stop by this flower bed every afternoon, tear open a packet of dry food, and pour it into our palms, listening to the tiny crunching sounds. He used to joke, "Let's bring her home, yeah?" I shook my head. Raising a pet is easy, but the hard part is, when you break up, who does it belong to? Just that one question made him sulk for days, and I had to coax him over and over. One night, he rested his forehead on my shoulder, voice so earnest it was crystal clear. "If one day I ever make you sad, tell me. I'll change. And if it's still not enough, you have the right to leave me. But Emma, I'll never leave you. After we get married, we'll bring Muffin home, okay?" After that, his car trunk was always full of cat food packets. Every day after work, he'd tear one open and softly call out, "Muffin!" He said, "Cats are like people. If you feed them and treat them kindly, they'll stay. Loving someone is easy, but staying in love is hard." I stroked down Muffin's spine, listening to the gentle rumble of her purr, like a vibrating guitar string. Today was supposed to be my birthday. The plan was, today we'd finally bring Muffin home. A small gift, a home, just a little bit more, and she would have had a warm place to curl up on rainy nights. Jake once kept his promise not to say goodbye, so he made me be the one to say it first. I pulled out my phone, opened eMessage. The cursor blinked. I typed 3 words. "Let's break up." The message turned into a blue bubble, and below it, a cold gray scene. No reply. I almost forgot. For over 6 months now, every time he got mad, I had to be the one to make it right. If not, I'd get blocked on Instagram, all contact cut off. He'd suddenly go on a work trip for days, vanish without a trace. Many nights I tossed and turned, scouring every platform just to find some way to reach him. Meanwhile, he was probably on a trip with Sophia Bennett. Airports, blurry check-ins, hotel windows with coffee cups perfectly placed in the frame. These past few days, they were probably wheeling suitcases into some city somewhere. I wanted to go back to that anonymous post and leave a comment, but he'd already deleted it. I sat down on the stone steps, and Muffin jumped onto my lap, her claws pressing into the fabric, leaving 4 tiny dots. I whispered, "Maybe no one's going to feed you anymore." "I have to go too." Muffin tilted her head up, blinked, and pressed her cheek into the center of my palm. Act 6. I had been sitting too long. My legs were numb like pins and needles. When I stood up, a wave of darkness clouded my vision, and my body collapsed into a familiar pair of arms that smelled faintly of warm, woodsy cologne. "Where are you trying to go, Emma? Why hasn't anyone fed Muffin? I've still got 3 bags of cat food in the car." I thought I was hallucinating, but in Jake's eyes, there was a flash of panic before it disappeared. I pulled my hand away, reaching into my bag for the condo sale contract, but he was quicker. He grabbed my hand and placed a small gift box in my palm. Inside was an aquamarine necklace. Last month, while on a business trip to France, I had noticed that exact piece in a private collection. Even after I begged, the shop owner refused to sell. I only posted a short story on Instagram, quietly expressing regret. "Emma, I didn't forget your birthday." "But clearly you knew I was mad. Why didn't you come and make it up to me?" He looked at me, eyes filled with a kind of wounded disappointment. "Wounded? Over what?" "Jake, I didn't get to finish before his phone rang. He picked up, and within 2 sentences, his expression dropped from warm to cold gray. "Why did you suddenly submit a resignation?" I was standing right next to him, and I could still hear Sophia Bennett's whimpering voice through the speaker. "Everyone in the survey team keeps bullying me. They say I'm just your mistress, that I'm trying to ruin things between you and Emma. I know you two are getting married. How could I ever do that?" Jake took a few steps back, angling his body to block me out, his voice suddenly gentle as he comforted her. "Don't cry. I'll handle it." He hung up, then turned to me with that boardroom glass stare I'd memorized over the past 5 years. That silent judgment that said he didn't believe me, but believed her. "Emma, the survey department is under your management. I already told you. Don't make things hard for her." He spoke slowly, pronouncing every word. "You're going to the office right now, in front of everyone. You'll publicly clarify things for Sophia, and apologize to her." He gripped my wrist. I tried to pull away. He didn't listen, just shoved me into the car. The velvet box fell, and the aquamarine gem spun in a streak of sunlight before shattering beneath his heel. The sound as delicate as glass breaking in my chest. The air in the car was suffocating. The AC blasted cold, but I felt like I was choking. "The projects you're working on are almost done," he said, eyes fixed on the road. "Divide a few up so Sophia can get used to them." I sat frozen, like a salt statue, suddenly feeling like I'd been thrown into an old dream. Back when Jake was still an intern, I had a project snatched away by someone with connections, and I suffered the injustice in silence, until he took my hand and pulled me into that conference room to fight back in front of 100 eyes. "What are you afraid of?" He smiled sideways. "Worst case, we quit." No one gets to bully my Emma. He even joked that Harlan Capital belonged to his family. I didn't believe him. Only knew the biggest shareholder also had the name Harlan. But later, he still got promoted, still got access to the best resources, still co-signed that $700,000 condo loan for me. I once thought it was love, that he gave me those things out of love, but now I see it was just a plaything for someone who could have anything with a snap of his fingers. Just like our relationship, once bored or tired, it was easy to toss it aside. Now, as a department head, he could summon the entire staff just to force me to bow and apologize, all to please his assistant. I looked sideways at the face that used to be my safe place, listening to the tick-tick of the turn signal like pins tapping against my temple. Outside, Manhattan rushed by like a movie on fast forward, stoplights, billboards, silhouettes of people. And inside the car, the silence was so heavy with loss that I could hear the wings of humiliation flapping. I thought of Muffin waiting by the flower bed, the porch swing never hung, the wooden horse with a broken leg, the me of lockdown nights shivering in fear while he held me tight and promised he'd never make me sad. "Jake," I said quietly, my voice echoing like from the bottom of an empty cup, "you just crushed your own gift." He glanced down at the floor and shrugged. "I'll buy another one." That sentence dropped between us with a thud, like a short verdict. I turned my head and stared out the windshield. Some things, once broken, are done, like aquamarine glass, like trust, Act 7. Jake noticed I was sinking into silence. His hand rested on the back of mine, warm and damp. His voice softened, low and gentle. "Emma, I didn't mean anything else. After all, you and Sophia are colleagues. I just don't want things to get tense between you two. We're getting married soon. You don't have to try so hard anymore. From now on, just be my wife." I leaned my head back against the seat and closed my eyes. In my mind, the words he once wrote on Reddit echoed over and over, the same contemptuous sentences from that anonymous post looping endlessly. "Jake, if you could lie to me so calmly, then I hope you'll also enjoy the gift I've prepared for you." The Harlan Capitol building gleamed bright against the Manhattan skyline. The glass facade caught the sunlight like a thin blade, slicing into my eyes. Jake pulled me forward so fast my wrist burned. On the top floor, the conference room lights were all on, and the faces of the senior executives, people usually seen only in financial interviews, were lined up, stiff and silent, none daring to speak. At the center stood Sophia Bennett, in a white office dress, eyes red and watery, looking every bit like a fragile lamb being bullied. The scene was staged so perfectly that anyone watching would believe it. No wonder Jake had dared to cause chaos across the company, stripping off every layer of moral decency he once kept in front of me. "Emma, you're really not the mistress." Sophia's trembling voice broke the silence, one hand clutching Jake's sleeve. "I just wanted to learn from him. That's why I had to spend so much time together with him. If it's causing problems for you two, I'll resign today." She said it, but her eyes shimmered with tears as she looked up at him. Hesitant, helpless, the kind of weakness that makes people want to protect her. And me, standing there in that room, looked like the evil witch from a fairy tale. Older, successful, yet painted as jealous and cruel. Jake stepped forward, shielding her behind him. Emma, our families and Sophia's have known each other for years. I only see her as a little sister. But you, encouraging your subordinates to spread lies, to slander a young girl? He stopped, looking at me with the same eyes that, 5 years ago, once said, "I love you." Now that gaze was nothing but cold disappointment. When did you become so pathetic? Pathetic? I gave a faint laugh. After 5 years together, after surviving so many battles side by side, he didn't even ask if it was true or not. Just a few tears from a girl he'd known for half a year, and he was ready to condemn me. You need to apologize to Sophia in front of the whole company, he continued. Admit that you slandered her. The secretary will record it and send the video to all departments. I clenched my fists so tight my nails dug into my skin, turning white. Even when Jake loved me most, he'd never protected me like this. Back then, when I was framed by a coworker, he was the one who took my hand, stormed into the meeting room, slammed the table, and demanded justice, not caring about the consequences. But that was before he had power. Now, with family influence behind him, he used that same power to crush me. He once said, "Don't be afraid, worst case, we'll just quit." But if I fell this time, I'd lose everything, my reputation, my career. And Sophia? She only suffered a few rumors. Yet Jake treated it like a tragedy of the century, handling it more delicately than a billion-dollar deal. I looked around. The others kept their heads down, pretending to check their phones. They all knew this was a power play, but none dared to interfere. My chest ached as if someone were squeezing my heart tight. I tried to keep my voice steady. "What about me, Jake?" He frowned slightly, confused. I met his eyes. "If the whole company, the entire financial world, hears about this, have you thought about what will happen to me?" His gaze was clouded, emotionless. Maybe he never had. He only cared that everything looked neat from the outside. Whoever got buried behind that facade didn't matter to him. "Emma," he said after a long pause, "you don't need to stress about work anymore. Just relax and be Mrs. Harlan. I'll take care of everything." I laughed. My laugh cracked through the conference room like a fracture in glass. Even now, he still thought I wanted to be Mrs. Harlan? If he truly wanted to marry me, it was only to lock me inside that condo and strip away every means of survival. A woman with no job, no name, living on his mercy, until one day, when he got bored, when Sophia or someone else appeared, I'd be nothing but an old decoration collecting dust in his house. "Jake, what am I to you, really?" I didn't argue. No tears, no defense. I just walked slowly toward the center of the room, where all the people who once were colleagues, witnesses, were waiting to see me kneel before the justice Jake had constructed. The sound of my heels echoed on the floor, steady, cold, and with every step, it felt like I was stepping on my own faith. The white light in the conference room shone down, clear, harsh, merciless. Jake reached out as if to grab me, but I pulled back before he could touch me. All he could do was sink into the chair, his face darkening, while Sophia sat just behind him, tilting her chin slightly, resting her cheek on one hand, the pink lipstick on her lips curling into a smug little smile. Her gaze felt like a thin blade, slowly slicing across my skin. I lowered my head, reached into my coat pocket, and pulled out a silver USB drive, plugging it straight into the projector. A small beep they'd pushed me to the edge, so I didn't feel the need to protect anyone's dignity anymore. My voice was steady, not shaking. "Before I apologize, I think everyone should see a few things." On screen, one video after another, one recording after another appeared. End of December. Sophia Bennett advised a low-risk client to invest in a high-risk product, causing the client to lose millions. Early February, she sent confidential documents about an upcoming IPO to a private securities firm. Blatant insider trading. Late March, she submitted incorrect numbers in a report, which was sent to long-term clients, costing the company a series of million-dollar contracts. I spoke slowly, adding nothing, just dates, times, and evidence. No drama, no emotion. Sophia started trembling, the smile freezing on her face, her hands clutching the edge of the table. The entire room fell silent. I knew many of them had heard rumors, but no one dared speak up. They all chose silence, because Sophia was Jake's girl. Jake stared at the screen, his face pale like someone had just dumped ice water over him. He whipped around to Sophia, his voice hoarse. "Sophia Bennett, is what Emma said true?" No answer. Sophia stammered, her eyes darting around. Jake shot up and slammed the table, the sound cutting through the suffocating air. "And the part about Emma slandering you? Was that true?" She dropped her head, silent. Jake's breathing was heavy, veins visible on his neck. So he hated being lied to this much. I looked at him, and in his eyes there was pure rage. And I suddenly thought, so he did have some kind of moral line. Pity he only got angry when someone else lied to him, not when he was the one doing the lying. When it came to hurting me, he never once paused to think how I felt. I gave a cold, quiet laugh. "Jake, don't you have anything you want to explain to me? Or should I start calling you Director Harlan now?" "Hey, Mr. Harlan." I paused for a beat, then lowered my voice. "But maybe none of that matters anymore." Jake bit his lip, his eyes conflicted. Guilt, confusion, uncertainty. His voice came out rough. "What do you mean it doesn't matter?" "Emma, I told you before, Harlan Capital belongs to my family. You didn't believe me, but I never tried to hide it." I looked him dead in the eye, my voice eerily calm. "Didn't you bring me here today to apologize to Sophia?" I turned to Sophia, and my eyes no longer held anger, just emptiness. "First of all, I didn't spread rumors about you. Second, you were right. You're not the mistress, because Jake and I have already broken up." The room fell into total silence. Jake froze. "What are you talking about?" He looked around, motioning for everyone to leave the conference room. The door closed behind them, leaving only the two of us, and Sophia, still trembling in the corner. I turned to walk away, but Jake grabbed my wrist hard, yanking me back into his arms. His body was shaking, his voice raspy. "Emma, please don't do this. I know you're hurt, I know I was wrong, but Sophia really tricked me. I'm sorry." I stood still, inhaling the scent of his familiar cologne, but all I felt was cold where he gripped my wrist. Something happened, and he never stopped to ask if it was his fault, just blamed someone else. That's when I realized the man I once loved so deeply was actually this irresponsible. All he had to do was listen to me once, and none of this would have happened. But he didn't. He was always so quick to feel, quick to love, and just as quick to lose interest. I looked him in the eye, unblinking. The anonymous Reddit post. 35-year-old women past their prime. Corporate burnout vibe. Even if I come back after I'm bored, she'll still love me. I paused, silent for a few seconds. Did you think I wouldn't know? Jake didn't respond. I looked at him for a long time, until I realized I didn't feel hurt anymore. Funny. Just yesterday, those words had squeezed my heart like a vice, but now I felt nothing at all. Maybe you only feel pain when you still love someone. Jake's face went pale, like all the blood had drained from his body. He reached out awkwardly, trying to pull me back, his voice hoarse. "Don't say any more. Please, Emma. I can explain." I looked at his trembling hand on my wrist and pulled away coldly. "It's not what you think," he continued. "Back then I was just—" But it was clear. He had written every word, every sentence himself. It was his tone, the way he analyzed, blamed, justified. Yet now, he couldn't even stand to hear his own words. Where was that boldness he had when he argued with strangers online? What now, Jake? When I'm no longer holding on, when you're scared of losing your right to trample me, is that when fear finally hits you? The calmer I was, the clearer I could see. The rose-colored glass of love shattered, revealing the true face of the man who once swore he'd never make me cry. I felt nothing left to hold on to. "Let's break up, Jake," I said softly. His reaction was more violent than I expected. He shouted like a man possessed, "I don't agree! I'm not breaking up with you." His voice echoed off the glass walls, filling the empty conference room. A relationship isn't something one person can just end. After all these years, you think you can just walk away? Do you even care how I feel? I stood there, looking at him, almost amused. Wasn't he the one who wrote an entire post asking how to break up without being begged to stay? And now I said one sentence, and suddenly he was the one begging not to let go. Maybe even he realized the hypocrisy. His voice softened, his eyes pleading, "I'm sorry, Emma. Everyone loses control sometimes." That post. I wrote it when I was exhausted, not thinking straight. You know how couples fight, say hurtful things, but it doesn't mean I don't love you. I shook my head slightly. He'd never understand. That post was just the final drop. For half a year, he'd been cold, distant, indifferent to what I thought or felt. I was worn out, working myself to exhaustion by day, and still coming home at night to comfort him, absorb his anger, and carry the emotional darkness he threw at me. How long can a relationship last when only one person is trying to keep it alive? And I knew the real reason. It wasn't exhaustion, it was someone else. Sophia Bennett, young, beautiful, from the same background, the same social class. He regretted choosing me. He saw me as no longer the best option, but couldn't quite let me go either. So he got stuck. Between guilt and desire, between obligation and temptation. And all that frustration, he took out on me. "Jake," I looked at him, my voice calm like still water. "You betrayed me, didn't you?" He froze. After a moment, his lips moved. "There was a time. I did feel something for Sophia." His voice softened, almost casual. "But honestly, men and women are the same. Sometimes we feel something, but I never crossed the line, so it doesn't count as betrayal." He looked straight at me, full of logic. "Emma, can you really say you'll never be drawn to another man in your life? Feeling something isn't wrong. It's only wrong if you act on it. Why do you have to be so stubborn?" I felt my stomach twist, the bitterness rising in my throat. Jake, the man who once couldn't stand me missing a single deadline, the man who loved my discipline, was now justifying betrayal with some cheap philosophy about harmless attraction. I stared at him for a long time, saying nothing, feeling only emptiness. I turned to leave, but Jake suddenly snapped, cornering me against the wall, gripping my wrist until it reddened. "Don't forget, you're 35, he hissed. "Without me, do you really think you'll find someone better?" His eyes burned, half threat, half desperation. "You're just angry now. Give it a few days, you'll calm down. I'll wait for you to come back and apologize." I looked at the man who used to mean everything to me, and realized maybe I was the one who had fed this sick confidence. I was the one who once bowed my head, who soothed, who begged, just to hold on to the shattered pieces of love. I was the one who made him believe that no matter what he did, I'd never walk away. I didn't say another word. I simply pried his fingers off my wrist, one by one. The next morning, I submitted my resignation letter internally. No explanation, no tears, just a clear, steady signature. For years, I worked day and night, saving every penny, just hoping one day I could build a warm home for myself and a child who could smile in their sleep. I didn't want my child to grow up tiptoeing through life the way I did. Maybe in Jake's eyes, all that effort was just a joke. No matter how hard I worked, it could never measure up to 1 month's pay for a maid in his family. So when he saw me every night dragging my laptop case home, dark circles under my eyes, hands trembling from cheap coffee, what did he think? Was it funny or just pathetic? I don't want to think about it anymore. I booked a trip to Big Sur. I'd dreamed of this trip for a long time, but every time I planned to go, work would cut in like a phone call that never ends. This time, I silenced the phone. My Airbnb cabin sat on a slope hugging the ocean, where the wind was salty and the old pines creaked. In the mornings, I walked to the rocky beach to listen to the waves crash. At noon, I took pottery classes at a small studio, clay sticking between my fingers. Cold at first, then warming with each breath. Sometimes I'd make flower crowns with the women from the farmer's market. In the afternoons, the neighbor kids called me Emma, chased me through lazy cattle, giggling when I clumsily climbed onto a horse. They took me up the hill to watch the sunrise, then in the evening begged to sit on the porch swing at the top. A simple wooden swing strung between two redwoods, swaying just enough for the sunset to soak the hillside in a fiery orange, like someone had spilled a can of paint across the sky. I held a little girl in my arms and suddenly realized, these dreams, I didn't need someone to go with me to make them real. I could build them on my own, and that feeling was incredible. After staying a while, life here slowed down enough that I could hear the leaves fall. I asked the elderly woman next door, "Don't you ever get tired of seeing the same view every day?" She smiled, her wrinkles folding like gentle waves. "I love this place. Every day I look at it with my whole heart, and every day I find something new. And then I fall in love with it all over again." I went quiet. So love is like that too. When you truly love something, how can it ever feel boring? And when it does, maybe it's because you've stopped looking at it with your heart. While I was learning to breathe slower, Jake was losing his mind. He ran to the condo only to find I'd sold it. He bought it back at double the price, like he was trying to buy back a moldy slice of memory. The wooden horse he once kicked and broke. He quietly glued it back together, but the crack still left a dark line, like a scar no cream could fade. The porch swing I had returned. He had a new one made, hung it in the exact spot where the sunlight used to fall. Maybe he never understood why I didn't love him anymore. Just like back then, when he blocked me, disappeared without a word, and never once thought about what that disappearance left behind. That night, Big Sur was windy. My phone rang. I didn't even realize he'd unblocked me. "Emma!" His voice sounded drained. "Muffin misses you." I leaned against the door, ocean wind slipping through the cracks, cold and direct. "She's just a stray cat, Jake." "She sees dozens of people every day. She doesn't miss me. If she misses anyone, it's probably you. You fed her most of the time." He paused, then rambled through a string of questions about litter, toys, climbing posts, food. The kind of things he used to know better than I did. He said he'd brought Muffin home, our home, made her a bed, bought 3 or 4 toy sets, installed posts in every corner. "Muffin's happy at home," he said, then paused. "Emma, could you come back? Don't you miss her?" I stared into the darkness, answering slowly. "What's the point of missing her? There are thousands of cats in the world. If I couldn't let go of each one, how miserable would my life be?" There was a long silence. Then he asked, "So, what about me, Emma? You don't need me anymore either?" That question, it sounded familiar. The day he dragged me into the boardroom and made me apologize to Sophia in front of the whole company, I asked him the exact same thing. "What about me?" And he said nothing. I closed my eyes, and the image of the porch swing on the hill came back to me, swaying gently in the evening breeze. The rough rope brushing against my warm palms, the little girl giggling by my ear. "Yes," I said, "I don't need you anymore." He regretted it. The kind of regret that comes too late, from people who only know how to cherish something once it's already turned to dust. Maybe that's just human nature. When love is tilted in their favor, they fear losing it, tread carefully with every glance. But once they know the other person truly loves them, they start to take it for granted, thinking they'll be loved forever, thinking there's no need to protect it. Jake used to be afraid I'd leave. Every time I got upset, he'd panic, scrambling to make it right. But when I really loved him, really put my faith in him, that's when he began to pull away. Only after he lost me did he begin to feel sorry. But what's the use of sorrow when it's already too late? On the day I left Big Sur, the cabin owner ran after me, handing me a small envelope saying, "Miss Emma, a man named Jake sent this for you. He's bought this cabin, said he wants to give it to you." I opened the letter. The handwriting was familiar, slightly slanted, still neat like the way he used to carefully write every line in his proposals. "I can't give you a house, but I want to give you a place to come back to." At the bottom, he'd added one more line. "I once promised to raise the little Emma all over again, to give you a room of your own, a place where you're allowed to laugh out loud when you're happy, cry hard when you're sad, and never have to live in fear again." I sat on the porch swing in front of the cabin for a long time. The ocean roared in front of me. I thought about the childhood room, the apartment I lost, all the places I once thought were home, but never truly were. This little cabin had somehow become his belated apology. But I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt an odd sense of peace. I didn't accept the cabin for myself. I signed over authority to the owner, asking him to welcome women who were going through hard times, whether in love, career, or health. As long as they needed a place to stop and rest, this cabin would be open. No fee, no questions asked. I told him, "If you can, let each person who stays here feel like they deserve to be safe, even if just for a few days." From then on, the little cabin in the woods became a refuge. People came, cried, then slept a deep, quiet sleep. In the morning, they opened the door to sunlight spilling into the kitchen, heard the waves crashing in the valley below, and started again. As for me, I kept going. I wasn't afraid of being alone anymore, and I didn't need anyone to hold my hand. I had a room of my own, not made of wood, but of peace. I looked out toward the ocean and smiled. In the end, I finally understood. Some homes aren't built from bricks and walls, but from the quiet steadiness of the soul.